Alright, so I'm sharing progress of where I'm at with vertical transition skateboarding. There's multiple approaches that you can take to this. I'm exploring a couple of them. I went down one path for a while, and then, I wanted to move on to what I knew was going to be really the approach long-term that I would take. So quick, just preview here, just showing things are working pretty good. I'm happy at least with where I've got with the various stages of getting this version functioning. So I'll watch through this video and explain what's going on, but first I figured I'll just do a quick demonstration. So here we are. We've got our ramp. I already have a system for tagging surfaces, and so that the game knows it's vertical transition. Because vertical transition is different than other slopes. It slopes up much steeper. All kinds of things happening. Steering is going to be different, and then the biggest thing is what happens when you're in the air. Quick side note, why this even all matters, is this game uses kinematic movement, which is meant to say that the programmer, so to speak, is controlling where the player is at every frame. You're never releasing things to some system and saying, okay, physics, go, tell me when you hit a wall, or tell me when this happens, tell me when that happens. Every frame, everything is under control. And that's the point of this game, was to be that feel, that classic arcade feel. So that's what I'm up to here, is making everything manually myself and making it really good, snappy physics. So quickly, as I was saying, this is have a system for tagging things in vert, so I know it's vertical transition, because steering and being in the air behaves differently. So let's look at the different possible approaches real quick. There are, that I know of, three. There's probably near infinite, but there's three, basic ways of doing things. And the first that I had approached was, when you jump on anything that's tagged vertical, then you enter this new state. And that happens automatically whether you roll off the top and you're no longer touching vert, but you previously were, or if you're on vert, something that's considered vertical, and then you jumped while you were on it. So the way the one approach works that I was doing first was, while you're in the air, you keep moving at whatever your exit trajectory was, but while you're in the air, it's always looking down. And if you're touching vertical, then it continues on that trajectory. Gravity and your vertical velocity will automatically be governing you going up and down. But as far as your motion to keep you over top of this surface, that's what was going on. So at any given time, maybe it would look down and it would find not vertical. So it would keep looking around, a little to the left, a little to the right. It would try to be smart until it found vert, and then it would adjust that trajectory so that you wouldn't be going off. And it would just keep doing that constantly the whole time you were in the air, finding when you're off and nudging you back on and adjusting your trajectory so that you stay in all the way until you land back again. This all works and it's good, but it's very reactive. So as you can imagine, there could be any number of things that could happen while you're flying through the air. There could be any number of configurations of the shape of the vert. It's a lot to account for, and it's just a lot of opportunity for failure and a lot of opportunity for bugs. So that's one approach. Another approach, and this is an approach I'm not doing, but has been done in the past on other games like this, is where there's actually invisible geometry that's up here, so that when you go into the air, you're never really in the air, you're just still on vertical, and you're just traveling like that, kind of like a wall ride. That makes sense. Seems like a great approach in that, but it's a lot of extra work in that you're constantly having to create extra assets all the time to be managing the system. So the system that I set up, this is just another approach, but it's one that, I'm familiar with working with splines a lot, and I'm already using splines. For sure, 100% of the time at the top of this lip, there would be a spline for grinding. That's how my grind system works. You move along splines, it finds splines, and you move along splines. So since on every vertical transition surface I would already always have a spline for grinding, I want to use that to govern my movement along the ramp while I'm in the air, so that anytime I exit vertical, so I'm still using all the same stuff. I tag the surface to control, my extra sort of steering that I need, the ability to go up steeps and things like that. So as soon as you exit, you enter vertical air, and then same thing. If you jump from any surface yourself manually that's tagged vert air, you know, vertical, you also enter this new state, this new nebulous vert air state. So while you're in vert air now, what I just immediately do is look for the closest rail as if you were grinding and start moving you along it in the appropriate direction based on your trajectory approaching it. Just all the same stuff that I'm doing from grind. In both cases, you would be, just like grinding, you're being lerped. Lerp just means you're being interpolated, you're being moved manually really quickly to now be in line like with that rail, and then now you're going to be moving along that spline, and that's what keeps you essentially in the ramp. Because you won't be, you know, flying over the ramp here, and you won't be flying over the deck. You'll be moving along the rail, so you'll be right over the vertical of the ramp. And then what happens, what puts you in the air is I just obey as I'm positioning you. Your vertical position is just using your vertical velocity. That is, when you jumped, you got a vertical velocity boost, and then same thing when you exit vert air. When you're on something tagged vert and then no longer, even if you didn't jump, I detect that and auto jump you. And so, yeah, so as soon as you're in the air, you have a vertical velocity, and gravity, every frame, I'm always like draining your vertical velocity with gravity. So that while you're moving in this direction, I'm just using that vertical velocity to use your position. So it will appear it's what you're doing. Your position is going up and down with your vertical velocity, and then your lateral position is moving along here. So this works, and it's very clean. And it's very deterministic, so to speak. So there's less weirdness going on. I'm not reacting to situations and trying to guess the best possible search to try to get you back onto the vert. You're just there. And then I'm using again the position, like if your vertical position ever suddenly is lower than the default position that you're moving to along the rail anyway, then I know you've landed. So I do multiple things at that point. I shift you out. So if we were looking at a top view of the ramp, here's the deck and here's the transition, right? We're looking down at a top view now. As you're moving along here, say you're landing, so you did that big arc, you came up, you did this big arc, and now you're landing. I use the facing of, I know that the direction that these polygons face, it's called like their normal, and I have that information. So I use that, and I just rotate towards that. So essentially I know that this face points this way. I know I'm currently moving in this direction, but I want to land and start going this way. I rotate towards this facing direction, just a little bit, not completely, so that now I'm moving in this direction into the ramp and not still like straight across the lip. And then I also like bump you over a little bit so you don't hit the lip. So yeah, so that's it works. It's pretty clean. It's got things functioning, and it's an approach that I'm happy to do because it also works for corners. Really quick here, I made an example. So say this was the deck, and then this was the transition down in here. So here's our transition, and you've got a corner. As I'm flying through the air, I can cruise around the corner because I'm following the lip very cleanly. Right now it's like the visual snaps a little bit because this transition is very crude. It's not a very smooth transition, so it's always like looking down at the surface while you're in the air and also orienting to it. And so there's some, not snapping, but there's some, you know, kind of rough curving, which I can clean up. So yeah, let's go back and just like watch the demonstration. I can go back to the very beginning here and just watch it. In the background, I just have some time lapse of the whole time I was working on it. So yeah, you can see here that doing nothing, like when I'm not crouching, it's auto jumping when it exits the lip. Like there, it auto jumped, and that it cleanly landed back inside. There's one little stutter that happens, and that was just showing kind of landing and grinding, and doing grabs, and then exiting a gap. You can actually exit a gap. As you see here, when it lands, it sort of does a double stutter. What's going on there is you're landing on a steep surface. Here it is again, here, boom, boom, right? So it's I just don't have that handled yet. You're landing on a steep surface and then kind of going into the air again and landing. I need to really like snap you onto that surface, so it'll be smoother from that respect. So I was experimenting here with just how it felt to do grabs, how my overall jumping is. Sometimes it exits and doesn't stay stuck in the vert, so I want to look and find out like what that extreme edge case is. But for the most part, I'm happy with the cleanness of the feel. So what's different here is it does lock you. It does now lock you. In my first approach, I was allowing you to pull so that while you were in vert air, it was automatically moving, but you could also pull off it. This approach, you're really just sort of stuck. I could do something. I prefer, since this is this classic arcade input where directional input does tricks, I kind of prefer to keep that clean and let the direction just do tricks in the air so it doesn't affect your movement. And then you're just rotating with, right now, with the triggers. So it feels good to spin with the with your rotation and get that extra, 180 spin, because it does an automatic 180 for you without any rotation on your part, as you can see here. And then, yeah, it's fun now to finally be able to experiment with doing flip tricks and grab tricks while in the air, because there really wasn't anything previously that allowed you to get enough air to get that much time. So, and then that just shows like exiting air off the end. You just deck out, you flatten out. Gaps, like from one vert to the other, currently aren't really clean. I have some thoughts on helping that out. But really the first thing I want to do is get that landing clean so that you don't have that stutter double land, and you really lock to that steep surface as you're going down it and don't drift off it. But overall, pretty happy. It was a fair amount of work. This is what I've been up to for the past 3 days. So it's Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with this. Sort of cleaning up my previous approach, keeping what I was going to keep, the base work that was going to be necessary and useful for both, like I said, tagging the surface, the current steering, all the movement while you're on vert. That's, been controlled and helpful and works for both of these approaches. And then just setting this up and then, creating the other geometry and creating this curved section. You can see later on, I think I go over to the curved area. I don't know why there isn't enough of that. It's pretty clean. Some of the movement around the corner isn't the smoothest. I don't snap. I do have like a bit of a, when the curve changes, you orient to it, but it's pretty quickly that it orients to it, so I could smooth that out. Like there, while you're rotating, you don't notice it as much, but if I don't rotate it at all, you could see that stuttering right there. So let's go back to that and look at it. Boom, boom, boom. See that? Boom, boom, boom. And that is, there's multiple things going on. So we're going around the corner, which isn't a completely smooth corner, and then as on top of that, the vertical faces that you're orienting to are changing. So we're like orienting and snapping, but even though it's like it's a bit of an interpolation, it's not an instant snap. There it was a little smoother, it feels, in the one direction. I think maybe because the one animation, when you're playing the grab animation, you just don't notice the stuttering as much as when you're just that T-pose in the air. Yeah, but like I said, that a lot of that will be worked out with just sort of making cleaner ramps that don't have this, very crude geometry, that have more faces. I think I have like 3 or 4 faces only to define the geometry. I could do like 16 or 30. Same with my corners; it could be a lot smoother. That, and then like I said, like I can add a little more interpolation to the when you reorient. So it isn't snapping right now. It takes a few frames to adjust to the new orientation, but I could smooth that out a little more. So overall, like I said, I'm pretty happy with the progress, but there's still going to be a fair amount of work to go. I'm going to check this in soon and make a new build and get it up to Steam, just so it isn't delaying other potential updates. It is in a starting state. Like I said, there's still a fair amount to clean up, but pretty soon I can push it up. It is pre-alpha acceptable. But yeah, still needs some work. Like I said, the biggest thing I want to do is really clean up that landing so it isn't a stutter step, and then just keep thrashing on it to look for any other bugs, and then I'll make a new build. But it's getting there. This was a big feature. You know, it's one of the last core mechanics, really, to round out all the skateboarding controls. And this will carry over. I mean, big secret, but not big secret. Like, I feel like doing all of the action sports within Cheapskate. The next thing I'd like to do, once the core things are settled for Cheapskate, and the missions and the story and the core levels, is adding, like, snowboarding really would be the first thing that I add as far as other modes of movement. But yeah, so we'll see. I wanted to share this progress. There's still a lot of, like I said, there's always work to do, but it's getting closer, and I believe this approach will be what I'm moving forward with. So yeah, I'll get a new build up to Steam soon. We'll see. If not, end of day today, for sure, end of day tomorrow. Friday. I'm gone on the weekend again. I'm doing another trail maintenance, volunteer trail maintenance for the Pacific Crest Trail. So I'll be busy doing that on the weekend, but I'll be back to this next week. Alright, thanks for watching. Thanks for playing. Yeah, it's fun. I really enjoy working on this. I'm working on it as much as I can when I have opportunity. Yeah, this has been one of the last big things